This was the craziest game I played in this tournament. Watch till the end to find out how did it go. So we started playing with e4, c5, knight f3, d6. Reminder that my opponent was international master from France, another international master I played in this tournament. Bishop b5, knight d7, castle, and a6. I kind of expected this variation, but my opponent was playing so many openings that it was hard to guess. He played bishop d3 and knight gf6, which is normal continuation here, c3 and e6. Instead of e6, there was possible to play knight on e5 or play g6 or something like that. But I played e6, which was also normal move, but other moves were possible also here. Bishop c2 and bishop e7. Here was also possible to play b5 just to develop this bishop from c8. Bishop e7, d4, queen c7. Well, b5 still was possible, but I was also thinking to take here and then play b5, but it's still a bit complicated for black to play this position because of this pawn structure on d4 and e4. Queen c7, a4, b6, d5. I have slightly worse here because I'm lacking development of my pieces, plus his pawns are centralized, and that's why it's a bit complicated for me to play here. I played e5, which is quite a bad move. Instead of e5, would be much better to take on d5 and then play bishop b7, but I didn't want to give him e file, so that's why I decided to play e5. c4 and castle. Well, knight on f8, ideal knight g6 would be better, but castle is also a normal move here. Well, it seems like it's worse, but I really wanted to have a safe king. That's why I castled. Knight c3 and rook b8. Well, now white has a big advantage to it to the space in center and the development of the pieces, but it's not easy for white to win this game. h3. Probably he wanted to play bishop on f3 next, not to let me play knight g4. So I played rook b8 here. I wanted, if he would play a5, I wanted to play b5 next. h3 and g6. Well, idea was to play knight on e8 and knight g7 and f5 and to do something here because otherwise I can't do anything. So king on h2, knight on e8 and g4. Well, also for him, bishop h6 and then g4 would be almost winning, but well, it's still white still has to play here. g4 and bishop f6. Idea to play bishop g7 and then f5. Bishop h6, bishop g7, queen d2. Well, instead of queen d2, it shows that he should have played bishop d2, but it's quite tough to play bishop d2 because he developed bishop on h6. So I feel like queen d2 is really a natural move here. Queen d8. Well, idea is to play queen e7 and maybe knight c7 next. Rook g1. I traded and play queen on f6 because I wanted to attack knight on f3 and then queen g7. Rook g3, queen g7, queen d2, and a5. Well, instead of a5, would be much better to play h6 also, maybe not to allow g5, but it's still slightly worse for me. a5, rook on ag1, f6, knight d1. Well, also ideal knight on h4 is good in order to play knight on f5 next move, but knight d1 is just really natural move in order to play knight on f3. And I played here h6, which is bad move. Well, idea for me was to literally close all parts of the board to kind of play for the draw because I really did not see how could I have continued here better. So f6 and knight d1, and I played here h6. Yeah, knight on f3, strong move. He wants to develop another knight. King on f7 and knight on h4. Well, knight on f5 would be also a great move here because I am forced to take on f5. If I move on queen on h7, he will take on h6. But he played knight on h4, queen on h7, and knight ef5. Well, rook on h8 is natural move here because I didn't want to take it. I had feeling that if I would do this, white would get big compensation, and that's how it would happen. So that's why I did not do that, and I played here rook on h8 and bishop d1 and knight on f8. I was thinking to play g5, but somehow I didn't want to give him this outpost for knight, so that's why I play knight on f8. Knight g2. This was blunder, and after the game, my opponent told me that he literally blundered. he thought that if I would take, then he would be able to play rook g7 or something like this, but he forgot that he played knight on g2. So I was really happy that he blundered, and I was thinking that I could win this game, but it was too early to think like that. I played king on e7. Well, h5 would be also a great move here in order to push pawn forward and not let bishop on h5 here, but I was quite like narrow, so I really wanted to have my king safe. So that's why I played king on e7, knight on h4. Well, bishop on h5 from here would be much better also. Yeah. Knight on h4, king d8, and bishop on h5, and rook b7. Well, I have to move rook on king side in order to be more safe here, because, well, I have extra piece, but actually white has good compensation due to a weak king, which I had. So that's why it's a bit hard to play for my side. Queen d1, knight g7, and bishop e2. Well, bishop g6 would be a good move also, but probably he didn't want to give me this light squared bishop, and that's why he played bishop on e2, rook e7, queen b3, and king c7, which was mistake, and I should have played rook b7. But I felt like it will not be great after rook g7, take, and queen b6. Well, it's a bit complicated to calculate all of this, and when you are so narrow, so you have really low time, it's really hard. So king c7 seemed really natural move to protect pawn on b6, and queen b5. Now white is winning here because he has really big activity, and I'm just stuck. So knight g6 takes, and queen g8. Rook b3. Well, queen g8 idea, it's only move here in order to play queen e8 and somehow trade queens, which probably white does not want to do. So rook b3, and I played queen d8 here. Instead of queen d8, it shows that I should have played king b8, but it's still same thing. So I didn't want to lose my time of playing king b8, so I played queen d8, takes, king b8, queen on a6, strong move, and f5. Well, logically I have worse position because white has really big activity on my king side, and I have to do something like f5 just tries to open this knight from g7 and attack. So that's why I played f5 here. Rook g6, and I took on e4. And rook g3, like, look at this. I was feeling that I had some chances, plus I had really low time compared to my opponent. But in reality, white was winning here. Queen on f8, king g1, strong move, knight on f5, rook b3, and queen g7. And here he made a mistake. He took on a5. Instead of that, he should have played rook 3 b5 in order to take on a5. And now it's like +7, like, because I have to play e3, and he can just simply play bishop g4, and I am totally dead here. So queen on a5, and he blundered knight d4, and I was really happy. I was like, oh my gosh, finally I'm winning game against international master, but I was still early. I still had like really small time here, so I should have been more focused of really continue well than just thinking of that I'm winning game. But unfortunately it happens. Rook d6, knight b3, queen b6, and knight d4. Well, I felt like I'm already safe. I have extra piece, rook, but it was too early. And h5. Well, I really thought that just h5, and if I would move the bishop, I would just play maybe knight on m5, or I would play rook on h6, and eventually I would win a game, but he played rook d8, which I did not see, and king on a7 and d6. This was really great counterattack from my opponent, because, well, he has to do something, otherwise he's just simply losing game. So, and I had really short time, I was thinking so much, so it was psychologically, it was really smart way to continue like that, even though it's totally winning for me after rook d7. Oh, sorry. After rook d7, it was totally winning for me. Still, it's really hard, like queen g6 to calculate all of this. Plus, I was imagining moves like queen on a5 or queen d7, queen g6, and that this pawn would be promoted and stuff. You know, like, it's really easy to imagine all of this stuff when you are short on time, when you are so tired, when you are so nervous. So that's why you blunder and play knight c6. He took, I took, bishop on h5, and e3. I offered him a draw, but I don't know why he did not accept. But in that, it was still like this: knight g6, queen g5, bishop e4, bishop g4. Actually, here would be better to play queen on f8, probably, and I would have some chances probably to win, but it was still small chances because my opponent has 3 pawns in a piece, strong queen and bishop. I have weak king, so That's why, like, plus I had really small time. Queen b7, queen d8, queen b2, and then perpetual checks, and now it is totally draw. So it was really crazy game because first I had worse position, then I was winning, then I was losing, then I was winning again. So it was really messy, but I'm happy that this game ended as a draw and I did not lose it. After the game, he said that he was watching my Twitch stream, so it's really great feeling to play against player who has watched your Twitch streams and knows your Twitch stuff. So yeah, and hope you enjoyed with this recap. And if you liked, give thumbs up and subscribe my YouTube channel.